Hi everybody, this is Brian David Marshall coming to you from the Tournament Center here at Pro Tour Dragon's Base in San Diego. I am here with none other than Craig Wescoe, and we're about to talk about, well, a deck that we often talk about when we're talking to Craig Wescoe, which is a White Weenie deck that has carried you to a 9-1 record thus far in the tournament. It's easy to just sort of go, oh, it's Craig Wescoe and he's playing a White Weenie deck, but what That's is fair. It about? But there's got to be a reason that you've been so successful with the deck and that you keep coming back to the strategy when you're looking at a constructed format. What is the appeal for you?
Well, I like to put my opponent under pressure so that if they miss a beat or they're playing a control deck that has the wrong answers to the format, I can really punish them with a fast start. And then the other thing I like to do, which separates White Weenie from red-green aggro and other sort of decks, is that I have a lot of utility. So I can play answers like Rootborn Defenses, Selesnya Charm, for the things my opponent's trying to do to stop my aggressive strategy.
And you find that that's something that's generally true of this archetype, that those answers to the answers are generally there in that archetype?
Yeah, that's sort of the way I've seen White go in development recently.
Right. So when I was talking to you about what led you to play this deck in our sort of pre-show, you said, well, this was the best path I could find to playing a White Weenie deck. So let's see the path you took and take a look at what we have to work with here. This is a lot of 1-drops, and I think the one that really stands out for me in the deck is Judge's Familiar, and you call the deck Don't Judge Me.
Yeah, that was actually Alex West who came up with that.
So tell me about the Judge's Familiar.
Yeah, so the 1-drops, I wanted to put my Esper opponents under a lot of pressure, and so Experiment 1 is sort of the obvious one, right?
Right.
And which he can get as big as a 5/5 when I start playing Wurms.
Right. Odd to say we're talking about a White Weenie deck when we lead with a green 1-drop, but
it's block. I didn't have a lot of options. Come on.
Small card pool, sure.
Right, and so Dryad Militant is the next one where he can evolve the Experiment 1. So I can start with Experiment 1, then play like another Experiment 1 and a Dryad Militant. Suddenly I have 3 2-power creatures.
Sure, on turn 2.
Now the thing that Judge's Familiar has done for me, in the green-white mirror matches, he allows me to get ahead in tempo even when I'm on the draw. So my opponent can't just cast Call the Conclave on turn 2, otherwise I'm trading my 1-drop for his 2-drop. And then when it comes to the advent of the Wurm, same problem. Are you going to cast that into a Judge's Familiar? I don't think so.
Awesome. And then what's going on with Civic Saber?
Oh man, I can't get away from Trusty Machete. Yeah, this we had 4 ofs for pretty much everything in the deck, and we only wanted 23 lands. So it was the question of what was going to be that 1 slot, and I was the one who convinced the rest of the team to play this. Okay,
so Civic Saber, equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each of its colors. So on a Dryad Militant, then you can attack for 4 on turn 2.
Yep.
With that, or you can be attacking for 3 on turn 2 with a Judge's Familiar.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. This allows Judge's Familiar to become basically a Lie of Sky Knight. And Dryad Militant can now attack into Loxodon Smiters and trade.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so let's take a look at the next slide. And we see the 2-drops. Green, white, green, white, green, white, all Selesnya, Call of the Conclave. You already talked about this card a little bit from your opponents. What's this card doing for you?
Well, it allows me to start populating with cards like Trostani and the green-white Guildmage in the sideboard. And it's also just a 3/3 Watch Wolf, for 2. So it fits curve, it evolves my Experiment 1 quickly.
Voice of Resurgence, obviously, you've expressed that you have some concern over cards like Supreme Verdict being played by your opponents.
Yeah, this helps to mitigate that concern.
How has this card, so this was the most hyped card coming into this tournament, probably.
I think I probably played a role in that hype as well.
I'm not casting any, throwing any stones here, but how has this played out? Has it lived up to the hype, yes or no?
I could not be happier with the card.
And he's 9-1.
It allows me to attack into Azorius Charm without worrying, which would otherwise be a really good card against all my tokens, because it just kills my token. And so if I have a voice in play, then they're basically just turning whatever's attacking into an elemental token.
Right, so you can play that attack.
Right, and it also, if they wrath me, then a lot of times the situation that comes up, I have an Experiment 1 with 2 counters on it, and I have a Voice of Resurgence. So the voice creates an elemental, I regenerate the Experiment 1, and now I just play a creature, and suddenly I have this 5-power board on
Right, it's like you didn't even miss a beat.
Right, exactly. They need to verdict again.
Okay, and then you talked about the flexibility. And Selesnya Charm, 3 modes. You get to name which mode you're going to be in. What are the modes that you're picking?
Pretty much all of them, because +2/+2 trample allows me to break through in combat. So if I have a Loxodon Smiter and you have a Wurm, then I can attack into it.
Well, and also, again, we talked about this in another deck with someone. If your opponent has, say, an Aetherling that they're looking to block your guy and then blink it out, you can give it trample, and then you get full damage. It's like it was never blocked at all.
Yeah, and there's also scenarios where I kill an Advent to the Wurm, so they try to flash a Wurm into play, and I'm just like, nope.
You can just shoot it before you even get the blockers.
Exactly.
And then just a 2/2 white. Sometimes you just need a creature.
Yeah, the most common way I use the Make a Knight token is against a Supreme Verdict deck, so like Esper control. They Wrath me, and I Rootborn Defenses. But then if they don't Wrath me, what am I going to do? I just wasted my turn. Let's make a Knight. So then I'm still increasing my board without...
And then you still have the Rootborn Defenses, and you have something to populate.
Exactly.
Okay, let's take a look at the next slide, and we'll see some of the cards we've been talking about. Loxodon Smiter, just, there's no, do we need an explanation?
I mean, I like elephants.
If you like elephants, you must love Advent of the Wurm.
Yeah, he's big. The match where I played against Rob, I was populated with Trostani. I made, I think it was 10 worms, and was at like 73 life when I killed him. So that was fun.
Let's stop and take a moment to reflect on 10 worms and 73 life.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like I was playing White Weenie at that point, but...
And then Rootborn Defenses is a card you talked about. I was really wondering a lot about this card coming in. Supreme Verdict says it's uncounterable, but I don't believe them.
Yeah, when I'm on the play, this is the card that allows me to beat Verdict. If they're on the play, they usually have a turn to cast the Verdict, where I have to apply another threat instead of this. But
if you're on the play, you're like, you come out of the gates with plays on the first couple turns, and then when they cast their Supreme Verdict tap out, you Rootborn Defenses. Maybe you even make another guy in the process, and that's
And it's also great in just creature stalemate, so I can just attack all my guys into their guys, and then just cast that, and I 3-for-1 them.
Sure. And so Temple Garden, Selesnya Guildgate, 9 forests and 9 plains. Your mana seems pretty evenly distributed.
Yep.
And then what else do we have here? And then just looking really quickly through the sideboard, we see Druid's Deliverance, Gift of Orzhova, Glaring Spotlight. Let's keep moving on. Trostani, Selesnya's Voice. This is a card you've mentioned a couple times. Sounds like this card is doing filthy things, as is Vitu-Ghazi Guildmage. I've heard people talking about this as being just an excellent card against control decks where you get to just not interact with them and just make guys. Unflinching Courage, Shades of Brian Kibler in 2000. And I think is that the last of the cards? I don't think we have any more slides.
Yep.
But it's an exciting deck. And you're 9-1.
Yep.
And so you're playing with Team Luxurious Hair.
Yep.
You write for TCGplayer.com.
TCG Player.
You've been talking about some of these cards. Perhaps if you've been reading his articles, you would have known all about Don't Judge Me. For Craig Wescoe, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the Tournament Center.